What is up, my little Deinos? Vepsis here, your coach of the Helsinki Dragons, and I'm here for my UBL D-League Season 1 Week 5 battle versus the Salt Lake City Swamperts and their coach Thumb Brother 2, and his roster includes some Mega Diancie, Celesteela, got some Crawdot, which is one of his C captains, Snorlax, Yuxi, Alola Marowak, Serena, Vikavolt, which is his second and final C captain, Carbodor and Girder. So that is his full roster. Very threatening team, a very like a bulky offensive style of team that I can definitely appreciate, with a lot of powerful cores within it, especially his first three picks being Celesteela, Godsop and Mega Diancie. Those three together are one of the most powerful trios which have been drafted throughout this season, and arguably right up there with my top three picks of Mega Lopunny, Landorus-Therian, and Black. You could make cases for both of them that these two trios are the best trios being drafted this season. But besides those three, he has a lot of different mons that I have to prepare for, and he has a lot of like a setup potential within his mons. All of his first three picks can do that and become a lot bigger threat than they already are. Crawdon can be something like similar to that, especially with the C captaincy with it. Even though I thought Godsop would be better C captains for him to have, Crawdon is still very solid mon and not something you see being drafted too often. Snorlax, we know, is a medicine with setup options that it has. Vikavolt with agility, etc, etc. So he has a lot of different threats that I have to make sure of, but hopefully with certain typings that he cannot switch into too well, and some sort of natural speed control that I can have over his team can work out for me. But let's go and see that what 6 mons that I'm gonna be designed to bring. And the first mon that I decide to bring is gonna be my Landorus-Therian with a physical defensive set holding leftovers, and we are running Earthquake, Default, Gravity and U-Turn, and we have also enough speed to outspeed a max speed Jolly Crawdon, and this also enables us to outspeed Yuxi as well with minor speed investment on it. So the idea with this set is to function as a Godsop switching, which I can definitely expect it to come, especially a Choice Scarf set could make a lot of sense versus my own team. So I wanted to have a switching for that. I also wanted to have remover for this game, and you're gonna see that throughout my team build, this is probably the better ways for me to remove the hazards versus him, especially seeing him using a lot of hazard stacking throughout his Carbodor as well. So we are gonna be bringing the defog on it, and the gravity is gonna be a move that you're gonna be seeing this mon and a following member to be carrying on it. And the idea with this, especially on the Landorus-Therian on its own, is to enable me to hit Celesteela super effectively through Earthquake in itself, which can be a pretty cool tech to have. Not something that people are surprised for Landorus-Therian for doing, but maybe my opponent doesn't see it coming and it's gonna be able to benefit to my own advantage with Landorus-Therian itself and some of my other members of my team. And the second member of the team is gonna be Charbel the Bronzo, making its second appearance after being used in week 2, and we are running a special defensive variant which is pretty given considering that we are going up against Mega Diancie, so I had to bring this mon, and we are running Heavy Slam, Stealth Rocks, Gravity and Hypnosis, holding leftovers and Levitate and its ability, and we are running the Gravity on this thing as well, kind of giving me a way to cripple potential switchings that he has for my Bronzong here. It can be very risky versus Mega Diancie and enable it to hit me super effectively versus me with Earth Power or some of his other members with ground type attacks. But the idea with this set is enable to punish Celesteela for coming in on me, because naturally Bronzong cannot do jack shit to that thing, and it can be very annoying for me to switching to either say offensive set or of a defensive set. So I wanted to have a opportunity to go for the gravity versus it and then put it in a sleep, and then that gives me a free turn to swap into one of my offensive threats that we are gonna be going through next, which can really appreciate the fact that they can land their most powerful attacks versus my opponent at 100% guaranteed under the gravity and not having to worry about the accuracy problem that those moves are gonna be having. So it's gonna be working in that sense, and the hypnosis therefore as well is gonna be 100% accurate, which can be pretty cool tech to utilize hopefully in this game. And the third member of the team is gonna be Mega Lopunny, and we are running a Adamant Mega Lopunny with high jump kick, frustration, ice punch and bottom pass, and we have enough speed to outspeed a +1 Groudon, eventually nature without speed investment. And this is one of the mons that hopefully now running high jump kick on the gravity can always make sure that I land those moves, so I don't have to worry about the accuracy miss, because as we know about high jump kick, that as it misses or fails versus a protect turn, it will force me to take 50% of health, which can be a very crucial thing in a lot of ways, because that kind of takes the health of Mega Lopunny and be able to take some crucial hits from a Choice Scarf Guardsome, for example. I cannot take any hit from it if I lose that health. Or one of his priority moves like Groudon's Aqua Jet can then kill me off. So it's very crucial and important to be able to land those hits, and the bottom pass is there to give me a switching on a very likely from my opponent to switching to Yuxi or into Garbodor, since I expect one of those two, if not both of them, to come to be able to check this thing defensively, which he definitely needs to bring versus a Mega Lopunny. So that is kind of the idea of the set, being one of my key ways to revenge kill his offense. And the fourth member of the team is gonna be hopefully one of our stars of the show this week, pun intended, in our Starmie, and we are running a modest Choice Specs Analytic Starmie with Psyshock, Hydro Pump, Surf, and Thunderbolt. We are running dual Water Stab because I do want to make sure that I have 100 accuracy move in Surf to revenge kill this Mega Diancie outside of gravity, because otherwise I would be relying on hitting high jump kicks or my Hydro Pumps to revenge kill it. But the idea with also having the Hydro Pump is kind of going along the lines with Bronzong having the gravity or my Landorus-Therian as well. So hopefully this thing or my Mega Lopunny can come in and nuke the crap out of my opponent with their strongest stab what they can hit with, and Starmie with a modest Choice Specs Analytic is no joke to switching to. The only switching that I see on his team to take my Water Stab consistently would be like super specially defensive Sarina, and Sarina in itself I would not say has the matchup to come into this game from my point of view. Or it would be like a Super Berry Snorlax with Gluttony, which would be probably the one which I would expect it to come into game more than the Sarina would be in itself. And he does have Groudon as his water type, but that thing is he's not a switching to this thing by the slightest. There's Choice Specs, Analytic, Hydro Pump actually all calls a offensive Groudon from full, which is ridiculous, but that's gonna be hopefully, this one itself hopefully is gonna be one of our winning conditions to break through his defenses and then enable even better Mega Lopunny function as the winning condition in the back as a sweeper. And the fifth member of the team of course has to be Bob the Alola, coming yet again with the Figgy Berry Gluttony set. We are running Adamant Nature, max defense, a little bit of HP investment and rest on the attack, and this is a pretty much a secure way to deal with the Yuxi in itself, which I highly anticipate to come, either checking my Mega Lopunny or even a Korean Black if he's really afraid of that thing as well, defensively wise, which to be honest he has a good reason to be. So I definitely expect the Yuxi to come, so this is one of my better ways to deal with that thing, cause he cannot touch me. The worst thing what he can do is knock off my berry, but outside of that he can literally do nothing to me, and I can always go for the pursuit and able to get a huge damage on it, which really plays through for my late game, which I'm looking at to sweep with my faster threats in Mega Lopunny or even Starmie if it's able to do that. So Bob is gonna be working towards that end goal and just functioning as a solid pivot as the usual that it's capable of. And before we talk about the final member of the team, I do want to mention Alola Mark's moveset being Knocko, Poison Jab, Pursue It and Recycle. So very standard set it right there with Alola Mark. But now talking about Gordon, the Rotom-Heat, which is gonna be the final member of the team, and we are running a very much of a supportive defensive Rotom-Heat set to function as a pivot to certain things, especially Celesteela defensively wise. And we are running Volt Switch, Reflect, Toxic and Pain Split. And Reflect plus Toxic were kind of like the best middle ground moves that I figured I could have, which I would not be clicking my Volt Switch versus. And Pain Split with leftovers as my item, giving me a little bit more longevity whenever I'm able to utilize them to keep it healthy enough as long as I need it for the game itself. And with the Volt Switch it gives me the momentum. The Reflect gives me a middle ground play versus a weakness policy Celesteela if I have any reason to think that that could be potential set of his. It also provides me a way to give me a lot more easier time versus his physical defensive threats, even though they are gonna be lasting only like 4 turns or so. Having that Reflect up there can still come into play, and with Toxic I can wear his fatter things down, like Snorlax, especially if it's not running Rest, which can be very likely not to be running it versus me, otherwise it cannot really have the moveset to function versus me too well, because it needs grunts to hit my Cofagrigus. So it can wear that thing down. I can wear Alola Marowak down, especially with Toxic and Reflect. I can wear it down and give my Alola Mach easier time to check with it. So I figured this would be the best way to go about my Rotom-Heat. This could have also been Weezing, but I'm banking on this 6 of the team can give me the best chance to win versus the team that I could expect him to bring. Mega Diancie, Celesteela, Garchomp, I think those 3 are given to come. I think they're just too good versus me not to come. Even me having Bronzo, I think still Mega Diancie is very good to be brought. Then I would expect Snorlax plus Uxie to be brought, and then the final member of the team I would expect between either Girder, Alola Marowak, Garbodor or Crawdont. I really don't expect Vikavolt or Sarina to be brought into this matchup, but outside of that, all of the other mons could very well to be the final member of the team from my point of view, and we have to see how correct I am with that and how we can deal with them. Huge shoutouts to SlackOut for the graphics and also joining my team this week, and also to AutoMatthic for recording my game. Hopefully we can keep out our winning streak and go 5-0, but it can be a very tough time versus my opponent and versus his powerful team, but hopefully things go well for us, and let's go see how the battle is gonna turning out. Hail Hydreigons! And here we are with the battle replay versus Thumb Brother 2, and he decided to bring Garbodor, Garchomp, Sarina, Uxie, Girder and Mega Diancie, and for the most part I'm not too surprised at what he brought, besides that he left Celesteela not to be brought, Snorlax, maybe Crawdont with Choice Banded Aqua Jet could have been nice failsafe to my offensive threats. But seeing Sarina was a huge surprise to me, especially that one, because I didn't think Sarina has the matchup versus me, considering all the ways for me to revenge kill it and check it. But now that it's been brought, I have to be aware of the fact that it could be Choice Scarf, which can be annoying to my Mega Lopunny or to my Starmie itself too. So That is gonna be something that I have to keep in mind as we go. But I'm gonna be leading off with my Landorus-Therian because it doesn't have a bad matchup versus majority of the things, and the things that I could potentially fear staying in versus, I can always U-turn out and go from there and get the Intimidate off versus something like Girder as a potential lead option, I guess, can be nice if I so choose to. But he's gonna be leading out with his Carborder, and here I highly anticipate him not to stay in, because if he wants to make sure that he has all the defensive responses to make a low pony, being as much of health as possible, as long as possible, he should not be sacking all of the health going for a hazard here, as I could easily go for the Earthquake. And if I'm offensive set, I could just do significant amount of damage to the point that this thing is gonna be easily revenge killed by the other things. So I highly anticipate him should be swapping out here, and him staying in for one layer of hazard should not be his play, especially because I do have 2 potential defoggers and a rapid spinner that I brought into this game. So even with trying to get his hazards up, I don't think he's gonna be playing to his long game beneficially in that sense. So I'm gonna be going for the U-turn, but you're gonna be seeing that he actually stays in and reveals to be Rocky Helmet. So this is a little bit annoying, and in hindsight I could have just gone for the Earthquake, cause the Serena and Yuxi, if they would have brought in, I could have U-turn on them easily. But I want to emphasize on the fact that I didn't think his best play would have been staying in and sacrificing all the health potentially, but it works out for my opponent, and I have to be now making a decision that who do I want to go into. And I chose to go into my Alola, covering the fact that if he has Toxic, I can be immune to it and I can go for the knockoff on the following turn. But he decides to go for the Spark, so very interesting turn 1 what he decided to do. And now he goes for the Stomping Tantrum, but I knew that if he happens to have it and to be able to hit me with combined with Rocky Helmet, I definitely am able to take those hits comfortably, or the chip damage that I'm forcing to take from the attacking move and the item itself, as I will be knocking off because he's being intimidated. And I do still have my berry intact to be able to gain that health on back eventually in itself through it. So any kind of chip damage I get on the Carbono anyways was always there to stay, cause he shouldn't have any ways to recover it unless he runs Pain Split on it. And that could be the case that he doesn't have it. So I'm gonna be swapping back into my Landorus-Therian, and here, because he already has 2 laser spikes, and he might be thinking that now I want to go straight up for the Earthquake, I'm gonna be going for the Defog, as he does swap out and doesn't want to now stay in for me or versus me. So either he was predicting me really well, or he made really questionable plays. I would kind of lean towards the second one, because I don't think the turn 1 was the optimal play for him to make. Because now you are able to see that I'm basically back at full with the leftovers from the Rocky Helmet chip. He wasn't able to keep his assets up, and now I'm able to gain the momentum as he went to his Yuxi, and I'm able to outspeed it because of my speed investment. If he happened to stay in, I got a super effective hit on it. But he makes a hard swap, I guess, expecting me to go into a Alola market there, and maybe not, or also not wanting to take the U-turn, and he can go into Mega Diancie and resist it, knowing that I don't go for the Earthquake. But either way, I get into my Starmie, and I chose to go into Starmie to be able to just nuke something. I could have gone into Mega Lopunny again, gone for a momentum move like Button Pass, but I figured that I want to go for the attacking move. Hits what in front of me, and if he goes into Serena, I can engage what kind of spread he is. And here was something that I really wish that I had Ice Beam, because this was a potential turn for me to predict this. But because I don't have it, and I can go for the Surf here, and I'm able to engage that he is not necessarily like a super defensive or a Assault Vest set. So I have to engage and see that if this thing is potentially Choice Scarf. But as you can see from the Surf, I'm able to still do like half to this thing, because I'm Modest Choice Specs Analytic, and Analytic did came into play because he was swapping out. So that's a lot of damage to a mon that is significantly bulky naturally in Serena, even if it's not invested. So here I go into my Rotom-Heat expecting a knockoff or a grass type move. So I'm able to cover the both plays, and I didn't want my AutoMatthic being risked to get knocked off by this Serena. And then I can go for the Reflect as he stayed and went for the Synthesis. And that was another play that I looked that why did he went for the Synthesis in front of Rotom-Heat, because as you saw, he didn't reveal to be Choice Scarf. He didn't have speed investment to outspeed my Rotom-Heat. So basically he was risking that thing, letting it go down just to give something else or free switching. So unless he had a really good idea that what he would go into after he's being finished off by my Rotom-Heat, I didn't see any other upside to him. But I guess because he was able to get the Synthesis off, it's gonna be beneficial for him, because now the Serena is back at full and able to soft check my Starmie, which is a little bit annoying. And because of that, it's going to be something that I have to deal with right now and pay for the consequences, I guess, that I allowed him to do that. But after I had the Reflect up, I go for the Toxic, because I'm able to engage what is his response to this thing defensively, and his only Toxic immunity was the Carbono, which I didn't think would be coming in. And I would have been able to Toxic this Arena and wear it down in that sense, because I don't pack the Overheat on this set. So after this, I was able to get the Toxic on the Yuxi and then Volt Switch into my AutoMatthic and basically trap this Yuxi as he goes for the Stealth Rocks, which are a little bit annoying to deal with. And you're gonna see later on a little bit more why. But now I'm able to go for the Pursuit, and little it just cripples something down that can take hits from my offensive threats, like Starmie in a pinch to take a hit from, or for my Mega Lopunny. So that thing is basically out of the picture with being Toxic and so worn down. But now he goes into his Carbono, and here my opponent makes actually a really good play, and where I see one of my bigger misplays to be done in this battle, cause I hard swap immediately to my Landorus-Therian as I did before already, but he goes for the Toxic, and this was a move that I thought that if he has anything to hit Landorus-Therian, he has to be Toxic. So here I thought that or definitely in a hindsight, I should have gone into my Bronzong first to cover the Stomping Tantrum play and the Toxic play, and then swap into my Landorus-Therian, as he definitely could not go for the Toxic in front of my Bronzong in itself too. So I could have pivoted around this Carbono better. And Landorus-Therian being Toxic is quite a bit annoying, especially with Stealth Rocks being up, because now it's kinda taking away its longevity to deal with a potential Choice Scarf card, so which I heavily expected to be the case, considering that he doesn't have other ways of speed control versus a team with Mega Lopunny, for example. So that was a good play for my opponent's behalf, and not the most optimal play for my behalf. And then on the following turn, I just go for the Earthquake. I could have gone for the Defog, but I figured off the chance he tries to go for the Spikes and ensure that he has a hazard up versus me, and me being already on a timer and showcasing him showcasing already that he is not heavily invested to keep the Carbono around. I figured that maybe he just stays and I go for the Earthquake, and then I try to get the Defog off later on versus a choice like Guards Up into Earthquakes, for example. So I banked on the fact he would stay in. If he swaps into Yuxi, so be it. I then Defog in front of it if I so choose to, or go for the U-turn just to finish it off. Probably would have gone for the U-turn if it came in, but he goes into his Girder. I'm able to engage that he is probably max HP variant, but he's not entirely heavily defensively invested, and I was able to do around 30 to 35% to it, which is pretty nice chip damage. But because the Stealth Rocks are up, my Gordon, the Rotom-Heat, is not the most optimal switching to it, but I have to go for it regardless, just in case if he happens to have the Ice Punch. So here I go for the Pain Split actually, in front of the Girder, and this is another play that in a hindsight I could have done a lot better. and maybe gone for the Reflect first or for the Volt Switch immediately. But I went for the Pain Split off the chance he would stay in and go for the Drain Punch, especially if he was afraid of me going for another Toxic or going for a Volt Switch, and he would want to keep the Uxie as a sack to my offensive threats. But in hindsight, it wasn't the most optimal play for me to anyways to go for the Pain Split. So besides the fact that I allowed my Landorus-Therian getting Toxic, this was another play that I looked back on that, okay, I didn't do this too well. And here, instead of going for the Volt Switch and keeping this thing as a sack, I go for the Reflect to give me a few turns of them while allowing him to finish me off with the Uxie. So with this, I'm able to hopefully deter of Tsareena able to go for the knockoff freely if it happens to come in on versus my Starmie, which I'm gonna be bringing on next, and also deterring the Choice Godsum to coming and click Outrage versus me, cause that thing could really punch a hole right now. So I figured the Reflect is better for me to have instead of having the sack in the back with the Rotom-Heat. So now I go for the Psyshock just to revenge kill the Uxie from here and basically cover any kind of a swap he could do if he, whatever reason, still wants to keep the Uxie around as a further sack throughout the game. But now he goes into this Tsareena, and here is kind of where I bank on the fact that he cannot afford to go for the knockoff in front of my Starmie because of the Reflect still being up. So he actually reveals to have his Power Whip being his Grass Stab with what he decided to bring, and that still does a lot of damage. But because of the Reflect, Bob is able to take that really well. And now I'm able to get the Berry off, which is really nice because now he cannot knock that item off from me. And I can stay in. And talking about knockoff, I actually decided to go for knockoff my own versus the Tsareena. And I do overhalf to it, which again reveals that he is not either physically defensive invested, so or too heavily at least, because I'm doing a lot of damage to him. And here I thought that he should swap out after he went for this attack, even if he's only at 40% of health, because this still is outside of range of Modest Surf, I believe, from a Starmie, and he can still get off a Synthesis off versus the other things on my team, especially like a Bronzong. So I figured that he shouldn't stay in and allow me potentially start to go for a Poison Jabs and beat this thing 1v1. I figured Tsareena is one of the better ways to deal with my Starmie. So here I actually go for the Pursuit as he goes for the Synthesis, revealing to still have, well, he did go for it earlier, so he already revealed it. But this was kind of like a over prediction, I guess, from my behalf, but I really expect him to save this thing and try to go for a Synthesis versus a Mon that he can go it a lot easier versus, like the Bronzong. But it doesn't turn out that to be the case, that what he decides to do, so I finally just finish it off with the Poison Jab, and his Tsareena goes down, which was a little bit annoying. And while it wasn't a Mon that I expected to come, it still was able to kinda do what it can do with offensive sets, even though it wasn't able to snatch a kill, it still did significant damage to some of my mons, like Alola Mach and Rotom-Heat. So here, as he goes into his Mega Diancie, I was like, okay, I could have sacked the Alola Mach there, but there's no reason not to just let it go like that when it can be a valuable sack later on to some of his bigger threats. So I just choose to go into my Bronzong, as it's basically at full health and I can easily take any one hit from it. And here I can reveal my tech and go for the Gravity, because I heavily expected him to not stay in, because he cannot hit me naturally until the Gravity would come into play. And I kinda expected him and hoping him to go into his Corridor, because I do have the speed investment to outspeed a minimum or non-speed invested Girder in itself, and then I could have gone for the Gravity first as he swaps in and then put it in the sleep with Hypnosis, and that would have been a really cool way to go about it. But he does go into his Garbodor instead, and which I was kind of surprised that he did this play, because this is the only thing that still can soft check Mega Lopunny to extend and give him a way to get the Rocky Helmet, well not Rocky Helmet, but the Aftermath chip damage on the Mega Lopunny, so Choice Guardsop could revenge kill it a lot easier with the Choice Scout. So I was kinda surprised that he is risking his Garbodor here and allow it to come in versus a Bronzong, which he cannot touch. Except the Gravity that I was setting up here, and he does have the Stomping Tantrum, and I knew even if he comes in with it and goes for the attacking move right there, that he can do a decent chunk to me. But I was willing to give him that chip damage because I'm still around 50% of health, which is definitely enough to deal with the Mega Diancie outside of the Gravity. And this gives me the free turn into my Starmie, and this is kinda where the prep came into play, how I wanted that Bronzong set to work, that it can put something into sleep guaranteed, and then it gives me a guaranteed Hydro Pump, because now it cannot miss and he has nothing to switch into this thing. And I was able to pick it off with my Hydro Pump, and I still have the turns of Gravity going on for me. But it does mean that he can also hit me back with an Earthquake guaranteed on anything on my team as he goes into the Godsum. So here I actually go into my Alola Mach instead of swapping into my Landorus-Therian guaranteed, because he has the Stealth Rocks up and the Landorus-Therian is being on timer with Toxic. I figured that it's better for me to allow the Alola Mach go down, allow the Gravity wear off, and allow my Landorus-Therian come in before he can attack me. And now I am a little bit better positioned myself to potentially go for the Defog or go for the U-turn or the Earthquake in itself. And I chose go for the U-turn as I kinda expected the Girder potentially coming in and take this one hit, cause Godsum can't really hit me right now at all if it's Choice Scarf, because the Gravity wear off, and Mega Diancie cannot obviously swap into me, because if I go for the Earthquake I just kill it outright. So I was able to get the call right as he went to his Girder, and here I can go for freely for Surf, because it should kill the Girder at this point of range. And whatever would come in on me like Mega Diancie doesn't appreciate this at all, and I'm able to pick it up immediately. And now he's only left with Godsump and with the Girder in itself, but the Godsump is still a little bit of a problem. And now I have to kind of pick another sack potentially, and I chose to sack my Bronzong here cause the Mega Diancie just went down and it doesn't really do too much versus a Girder in itself, and Godsump in itself is able to two-shot me with a outrage in itself, as you can tell. And I pack Heavy Slam on this set, which doesn't really do too much to the Godsump in itself. So I figured I'm gonna be sacking this thing similar ways as I sacked the Alola Mach, just to give my Landorus-Therian as free of a switching as it can, so it doesn't have to take any kind of swaps. But because he is actually locked into third turn of outrage, he is forced to stay in, and I took this opportunity to finish this thing off. And as long as he's not adamant or he gets a crit, I'll take this outrage with my Mega Lopunny and I finish it off with an Ice Punch. So I'm banking on that, and he doesn't crit me. He doesn't seem to be adamant unless he didn't just get the roll with it. And I go for the Ice Punch, and it definitely should kill this thing off. And with the Rough Skin chip damage, I'm still able to live a hit, but I do die to Stealth Rocks if I try to swap out. So here I'm basically in a position that I have 3 months remaining, Mega Lopunny being very low, but I go for the high jump kick, not try to save this thing, cause there's no point of me to saving it and risk my Starmie or Landorus-Therian to swapping into this. And I went for the high jump kick, barely missing on the kill. I think depending on his physical defense investment, if he had none invested on it, it was like 50% to 59%. And to me that looked like around range of maybe 59 or below that. So unless that was the max roll and he was outside of that range, or I just missed out a roll in itself and I didn't get a high roll to kill it, this means that the Girder was able to live that hit, but because he went for the bulk up there, I'm actually able to save the friend. So even though I was willing to take the 2-0 win, which was basically given to me at this point, but because he tried to go for the bulk up, I guess, giving him the last ditch of ever to try to win this game, expecting me to swap out on the Mach Punch and try to preserve differential. He chose to make that play, but it didn't really pan out for him because I was able to make the pivoting into my Landorus-Therian, knowing that he cannot go for the Ice Punch and he probably wants to go for the Mach Punch versus the Mega Lopunny to pick the differential, but instead of that, I am able to pick myself a 3-0 win versus Brendan and, well, aka Thumb Brother 2. So, really good game to him. I think a lot of the either the plays that I got wrong, what he should have done, or he just predicted me really well. He was able to make this a closer game with those plays early on in the game, and with him able to get the Stealth Rocks up and getting my Landorus-Therian being toxic, it turned out to be a lot closer game that I really was hoping for. But I was able to, regardless of the plays that I didn't get right on certain turns, and either I made a misplay or I kinda expected him to make a different play and I didn't see the play what he did was optimal. Regardless of that, I was still able to manage and look towards to the late game that I was looking for, where Mega Lopunny or the Starmie was able to finish the game off, and Starmie actually ended up having 3 kills in the game. Mega Lopunny only getting 1 kill, but it was able to survive. And yeah, that's gonna be the game for us in the week 5 game in itself. And pretty happy that we are able to move into 5-0 at this point, and we also gonna be having plus 17 differential, so we are getting closer there to finally able to clinch a playoff spot. I'm not sure if we are able to clinch it just yet, but we should be pretty close to doing that, so hopefully that's gonna be the case. And on week 6, I'm going up against a Soul Link partner of Thumb Brother 2, because they have actually doing Soul Links into their channels. I'm going up against Blazing Squid next week, who has a very threatening team, and he has proven himself to be a potential playoff contender. So it's gonna be a very interesting team to go up against in week 6. So make sure that you're subscribed and tune in for that game. And check out my opponent from this week. His YouTube channel will be down below in the description. And make sure that you are following all of the courses in the UBL D-League and be able to see all the battles that we have providing you guys here on this season. And make sure that you're subscribed here also for the tomorrow's game, when I'm gonna be having my week 4 game for the NPL Majors versus Adam the Beast Knees, and that can be a very crucial game in a sense that I don't fall off in a neutral position there in 2-2, and I can hopefully move on into 3-1 position after taking a very unfortunate loss due to some RNG factors in last week's game in the NPL Majors. But until tomorrow and until for my week 4 game of there, thank you all for watching, and until next time, I'll be see you guys later.